This week's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Comixology. Are you tired of your favorite movies getting pushed back again and again and again and being stuck inside and not being able to do anything or go see anything fun? Check out Comixology.com. Read all the stories that all of these movies are based on and get in the know. Comixology.com. Sign up for a free Comixology Unlimited trial and you can read everything. You can read The Boys. You can read Lock and Key. You can read Batman. You can read whatever you want. Visit infamouspodcast.com/Comixology to sign up today. Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Darryl.
And this is episode 269, Wonder Woman, Down and Out? I went up at the end there, Darryl, so it's a question.
Yeah. Yeah. For Wonder Woman, that is pretty accurate,
yeah.
I would say.
Anyway, so it does not mean it's Wonder Woman Down and Out. We are talking about Wonder Woman 84 this week. And we are talking about episode 5 of season 5 of The Expanse, Down and Out. So, yeah. Anyway, how's it going, bud?
Almost New Year's. So.
Almost. This is the last well, you guys, it'll be your first podcast of the year. It will be our last podcast of the year. So, Happy New Year.
So I know. I hope everybody has a good New Year and has a little bit of fun at least.
Up until 10 p.m.
We all deserve
depending
it
on where you
year.
are. Yeah. So Ohio just extended their 10 p.m. curfew till January 23rd. I feel like none of this is ever going to end.
No, it's not.
Well, and if you think about it, so this is 2020. Next year is 2021. Then we have 2022. So we've got 8 more of these to look forward to.
Did you? I don't know if you saw the meme where I think it's Will Smith's face, where it says, anyone concerned that the next year is 2020, and then it had 2020 and it said WON 1.
I mean, that's kind of like where I was going with that, so I did not see that, but that is very funny. Very, very funny. Okay, so first up is the fantastic, the wonderful, the ridiculous Wonder Woman 1984.
I've talked to, let's see, not including you, 5 or 6 other people, and the best they said about it is that parts of it were fun, but it's not nearly as good as the first one.
I've only heard the nicest thing anyone has said was, well, it was fun.
Yeah, that's the best I heard.
I had what was it? Drew, our buddy Drew McNamara, texted me and asked like what I thought about it. He actually, I think he liked it. Let me hold on. He said he wanted to know what my thoughts were on Christmas Day, and I haven't watched it. I said I haven't watched it yet. He said I went in with low expectations. I thought it was pretty good for a DC film. 7.2 out of 10. Ultimately, it was too long. And I replied, it was way too long. It reminded me more of Superman 3 than Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins should have had some other writers take a stab at it. And it was boring. So
one of the things I told, and I might have told you this too, but I told somebody else, I was like, this was like they filmed the first or second draft of the script.
So this is suffering, I feel like, from the Last Jedi syndrome. It was a director-writer who had very little oversight, and we'll get into that. And they did, in this case, she did not want to cut things that probably should have been cut. The other thing is writing credit-wise, you've got Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, Dave Callahan, who I don't know, for the screenplay, but the story was by Patty Jenkins mainly and Jeff Johns.
Yes.
I'm just gonna start by saying I used to love Jeff Johns. He used to be one of my favorite comic book creators. Jeff Johns has entered the Frank Miller stage of his writing career, where his best days are long behind him. Frank Miller, to me, hasn't written anything relevant since RoboCop 2. So, I mean, we're talking like 40 years. Jeff Johns has not written anything relevant in the last 10 years, in my opinion. Yeah, and anytime he gets into the visual medium, Green Lantern, it's hot garbage.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about. Like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, this was one of those where, like, I won't say my expectations were high for this movie.
No.
Especially after the last few weeks, leading up to it. But I had expectations that it would be a halfway decent film based on, I thought it was going to suffer from sequelitis in the sense of it wasn't going to be as good as the first one. The first 2/3 of the first one, I would say.
Yeah. I feel like it was right on par with the last third of the first movie.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. So I was, and again, first 10 minutes of the movie, well, the first scene of the movie, and we'll get into that a little bit, where they do the flashback and Themyscira, I was like, okay, I'm on. And, I watched it again to make sure I didn't miss some things. And once again, that scene, the opening scene of the movie, really captured my attention.
Mm-hmm.
I was hyped and ready to go. I don't know who the little girl was that played young Diana, but I absolutely loved her. And I just thought this was going to be awesome. This movie is going to be so much fun. And then it happened.
Well, okay.
And then the real movie started.
So the first movie was written, the screenplay was by Alan Heinberg, and the story was by Zack Snyder, Alan Heinberg, and Jason Funks, Fuchs, Futch. Fuchs? Yeah, something like that. And so, yeah, I'm assuming someone made a big deal about an all-male writing team for Wonder Woman. So they said, well, we'll go all-female this time with Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns. And, who knows? But, yeah, I mean, the first movie, I will say, was at least well written. And while there were parts from the first movie that were like beat for beat Captain America, the First Avenger, I mean, if you're going to copy something good. There's stuff out of this that is beat for beat Superman 3. And if you're going to copy something, and some of Superman 4, if you're going to copy something, let's not go with two of the shittiest superhero movies of all time.
Yeah. And it's funny when you said the Superman 3 thing, it was like after you kind of watched it. And I think I was like partially like 30 minutes in or something like that. And I was like, I see it a little bit. And then it went on and it went on and it went on and it went on. Yeah, I absolutely saw what you were saying.
I mean, it's like that. Like we almost had the shot for him fighting the alternate version of himself in the junkyard, where he went into the trash compactor thing and came out like as Superman again, with the whole thing. All right, let's take a step back. So the summary for this, as I found. I just found the shortest one I could find because obviously there's the long one. It says, Diana Prince lives quietly among mortals in the vibrant, sleek 1980s. I will say this is the cleanest I've ever seen the 80s look.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
An era of excess driven by the pursuit of having it all. Though she comes into her full powers, she maintains a low profile by curating ancient artifacts and only performing heroic acts incognito, dressed head to toe in a red, white, and blue bustier. But soon, Diana will have to muster all of her strength, wisdom, and courage, and selfishness, as she finds herself squaring off against Maxwell Lord and the Cheetah, a villainess who possesses superhuman strength and agility. I am going to make an argument here. Cheetah was not the villain of this story. I will almost argue she is not a villain in this story. She is a victim.
No. Yes. No, she's not the villain in the story.
I will also argue Maxwell Lord may not be the villain in this movie. This could be our first villainless superhero movie.
Well, it's better to say antagonist. In
There
a
you go.
sense.
He's an antagonist for sure. He is not a
right.
villain. He's just
not.
I don't know. The thing that struck me about this movie was how selfish everybody was.
Yes.
And it was selfish without any kind of like hero's journey or morality tale to go with it. It started with the idea of what a morality tale should be, with young Diana kicking all sorts of Amazonian ass in the Amazon Wipeout or Wipeout Themyscira. But then, Robin Wright Penn was like, got her Princess Buttercup on and was like, no. Just because you fell off your horse. But here's the thing. She did not take a shortcut. She practiced ingenuity. So basically what they told her was, this is the box that you have to live in. Do not stray from it.
Yeah. The only thing I would have to say about that, because I actually agree on that regard, is that she didn't hit the target. And if that was part of the rule set,
yeah, I get that.
Which again, we don't know.
Well,
we're just assuming.
I mean, we did not get the pre-game like wipeout huddle about what each like obstacle was before they had to go do it, and but yeah, it was a really cool scene, and I will say everything that they've shown us of Themyscira so far, even in the subpar Justice League movie, has been really cool. To the point where I think there's mention at the bottom of this Geek Tyrant article, New Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins talks Themyscira Olympics flashback as well as spinoff and sequel ideas. So maybe they're going to do a spinoff of Themyscira. So, that might be actually interesting. Like not having like anyone we know, and it's like the Amazons of Themyscira or something. And someone breaks through the Zeus's invisible barrier,
or and again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Would they tell the tale of the Amazonians breaking free? Yeah. Because again, one of the things we saw were
it could be called Amazonians Gone Wild.
I should have known what that was for. That brain over there working.
You probably saw the smoke all the way from Kentucky.
But when they were talking about, one of the things and we'll get into the whole golden armor sell toys thing, but when they were talking about Asteria and how she held back mankind while the Amazons escaped, did you notice those guys look very similar to Spartans from the 300? So I would wonder if they would do something like that, like tell at least part of the story of them escaping and then settling down. I don't know.
Do you think Gerard Butler could get back into Leonidas shape?
Ooh,
I know he's like older now. I mean, I assume Fassbender's like still in Spartan shape. Yeah. Because all the perfection memes. So I assume he just walks around as perfection all the time. Anyway, no, the opening scene was really fun. I think the opening scene would have been more fun had it not been released on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and HBO Max 2 weeks ago.
Oh, see, I didn't watch it. So
I couldn't help but like not see it, since I was like, all right, like you obviously want me to watch this for some reason, and I watched it. And I was like, oh, this is cool, and it didn't show all of it, but it's like it showed enough of Wipeout Themyscira, and it's like, it's kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's like one of those trailers where you see something in the movie and you're like, this would have been so much cooler if I didn't see it in the trailer.
Yeah. But like, so it opens with her like, talking about this in the voiceover. And I got to say, I love Gal Gadot's voice.
Yes.
I love it. Like, I really, like, she needs to do like audiobooks on top of all of this, on top of her busy acting schedule. But, she talks about how like, oh, there were lessons and I should have paid attention. Yeah, because you still, by the end of this movie, had not paid attention to what you were supposed to have learned in that instance from Princess Buttercup.
Yeah, and that's one of the several things that is wrong with this movie, in the sense of you see what they're trying to do, but they just completely, just fall on their face so many times getting to the end of what they're trying to do. And there's just a lot of confusion. And one of the things I mentioned, and we'll talk about tone, considering, and this could lead into the second introduction scene.
Well, hold on. Before we move on, like just one kind of last like beating of the dead horse. You finished Avatar, right? The Last Airbender?
I have not.
Okay. You at least you saw the flashback where the monks figured out he was the Avatar, and they didn't want to tell him because he was too young, but they decided to. This is what happened if the Fire Nation did not wipe out the Air Nomads. Is they pulled him aside and said, "You're not allowed to have fun anymore. You're not allowed to have any of this ingenuity. You were not allowed to be the best thinker of all of us, a strategist even. You have to fit into the mold of what we say you are and do it the way it's always been done."
That's pretty, yeah.
And that's what bothered me the most. Especially like someone with a daughter who is constantly pushing her to think outside of like her own little bubble, especially in this day and age where, she goes to school, she comes home. She has nothing else to do because everything is, shut down in the world. So it's like, how can she gain any kind of experience outside of a book? And right. So it's like, well, how would you approach that? If this was a real situation, how would you approach that? And there's no wrong answers when I ask that question. Unless it's like, oh, well, you need to make a snap and, get rid of everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's cheating and lazy.
Yeah.
So tell me about the biological weapon. No, I'm kidding. I'm 100% kidding. 80% kidding. All right, 12. Anyway, so, but yeah, okay. So this was the first opening. I feel like this is a strong opening to a movie.
Yeah, because it gives you, it goes back to a little bit, telling you a little bit of the backstory of the character. It starts off giving you what you think is going to be the overriding theme of the movie. And I mean, it's just fun. And it's also fun.
Yes.
So and unique, and that is a way to start a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the second opening scene happened.
Yeah. The mall scene was ridiculous. It was clunky. It was ugly. And we grew up in the late 80s. And 90s, and did you ever see a mall that clean?
Absolutely not.
And in the 80s, if somebody dropped a gun, I don't think there would have been the freak out like there is today.
No, there wouldn't.
And so, like, it was a very modern response to some guy who just dropped the gun out of his pants.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me put this away, ma'am. And then how did the other two guys, the guy who looked like the cross from Michael Keaton and the dude from Burn Notice, like nobody knew who they were. Like everyone's like pointing them out. I was like, how do you know they're with these two dudes? No one was paying attention to anybody until this guy dropped his gun. And then all of a sudden you know who all four of the bankrupt or the black market stealers are.
Yeah, like you said, it was sloppy, it was too clean. And again, it's the tone thing. You get one tone when you see the opening scene, and then you get another, and the second tone you get with this second opening scene, and those aren't even the two tones that go. They mix, they intersperse throughout the movie, and again, one of the things you said yesterday is that they didn't need these two opening scenes, and
no,
you're right.
What's our favorite word when it comes to this stuff? Restraint.
Yes.
She had zero restraint. In this quote, there was an interview with Joe Blow, and she's talking about the two opening scenes, and I guess Warner Brothers was saying we would like you to cut one of them, and she said, I wouldn't have jammed it in there because of the success of the film, because it actually made the movie too long. We have two openings in our movie, and we would talk about it with the studio all the time, and they would say, you've got to cut them all in the 80s, or you've got to cut the Amazon. And I was like, we can't cut either. This is an artist who is too in love with her own vision and her own work, and it's why I think Patty Jenkins probably is not an auteur. She's not a writer director. She's a director. She knows how to do action. No argument there. It's everything else in between, like, where it kind of struggled.
And I have to give credit to WB in this instance. You know, we rip on them a lot because of their just boneheaded decisions, and this is one of those cases where they were actually right. It stunted a great start to a movie by having this mall scene in here.
Yeah, like there was the scene where she came from out of nowhere and she saved the little girl with the never-ending lasso, which we'll get to that.
Yes.
So she saves the little girl, drops her on the rocking horse, probably breaking her pelvis in the act of doing that. She comes back up, and then what was the little black girl doing? Like, and how is the mom of that little black girl just letting her walk out in the middle of like a fight with a crazy person dressed up and, you know, a dude holding a gun, and then she you know, took the boomerang tiara and like threw it around and knocked all the cameras out long after they'd already caught her doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like
it
like from the beginning I was like, I am nitpicking this movie and I don't want to nitpick it because I wanted to like it.
Yeah, and I did the exact same thing in that scene, in the sense of, I'm like, okay, why is this little girl doing this? What's going on here? And we're not going to even get, and again, this demon.
How did she slide across the sticky mall floor like that? Because those floors are not sticky. Because if those floors were like slippery, I'm sorry, they're not slippery. People would fall in everywhere. And she like slid all the way across to the well-placed bear. You know, breaking her tailbone in the action of being thrown 30 feet across the floor. I mean, so now she's crippled two little girls. Like, this is how the movie starts with our quote unquote hero.
And let's not forget the bride that she saved from like getting knocked off the.
Oh yeah,
bridge.
Yeah. There was that too. You know, and she just dumped her on the ground, ruining her wedding dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. She kicks the car with no, you know, thought for like what other cars are coming through this intersection.
Yeah.
It was just really kind of funny. You know.
Yeah.
I did like, I don't want to get like racy about this, but like, why were all the bad people in this movie white?
You notice that too?
Like in the show when the little girls are shoplifting, it's only the one white girl who like gets chased after, really. Even though they were all like going to steal, but only one of them actually did it.
Yeah.
You know, it was yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is, you know, the hey baby,
only white guys.
Yeah, I noticed that really noticed that the second time, and I
didn't notice that the first time. I really like it honed in the second time. I will say the other thing about this is the whole resurrection of Steve Trevor. You know, we don't typically agree with the Mary Sue .com, but they have an amazing article about consent and the guy that Steve Trevor possesses. Is this ghost now? And his name is Handsome Man. Like, they didn't even bother to give him a name or like any sort of backstory. It's just essentially, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But like, yeah, it was so heavy-handed.
Yeah,
the first one was not heavy-handed at all. And like, you know, they had a relatively diverse group of the wannabe Howling Commandos with Steve Trevor there. You know, there was the Native American guy, there was the French guy, there was the Hispanic guy, there was a black guy. It was organic. It made sense.
Yeah.
None of this movie made any sense. And we haven't even got to Kristen Wiig yet, who I thought was
You mean Electro?
Right? One of the weakest links of the movie. 100%. You know, Angel and I were talking about this because like she was kind of coming in and not watching it, and like Kristen Wiig is, I'm sure people find her attractive. I'm not necessarily in that camp, but like I'm not judging her. You she could play the frumpy part, absolutely, but at no point would you ever think she's on the level of, Diana Prince, as far as like getting attention from anyone.
Yeah.
So, but we're jumping all over the place. Let's rein this back in. So the whole point of this movie is a wishing stone.
The dream stone.
The dream stone, that the monkey's paw, which they every time you hear them say monkey's paw, take a drink, because you're not going to die of liver poisoning, but you're probably going to have a really nice buzz by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I think Minerva was the only one to call it Dreamstone, because she said, sounds like it would be a dreamstone to me, or something along those lines.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought for a movie that does not have a very big cast, I don't really feel like they did a great job casting this movie. Gal Gadot, however you want to say it, I don't know how to say it, is Wonder Woman, no doubt. I think she's great in the role. I think she looks the part, she sounds the part, and the physicality that comes with Wonder Woman, I 100% buy. Disbelief suspended. Yes.
Right.
Chris Pine as Steve Trevor the first time out, chef's kiss, perfect casting. Kristen Wiig, nah. Pedro Pascal, nah. And that's it. That's really it. And so 2/3 of their cast is like, eh. Like, I don't know why they did this movie in the 80s. Like, they've wasted two of the more important canonical bad guys in Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery.
Right.
And on the 80s.
Mm-hmm. And they made the same mistake when you're talking about heavy-handed that Captain Marvel did. One of the things that I had issues with Captain Marvel is they made sure that you knew this was in the 90s.
Yeah.
From the soundtrack, again, I liked all the songs, but they did not fit. They didn't do a good job fitting the soundtrack into the movie. Especially
the music she listened to. Like,
right.
She was not listening to Nirvana when she came back to Earth. She was still listening to Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard. Yeah. She wasn't like jamming out to Come As You Are, because she has no idea what that song is.
Yeah.
To get nitpicky again, most of the games in the arcade were from later in the 80s.
Yes, I noticed that. Like when I saw Operation Wolf, I'm like, that wasn't 80. That wasn't 84.
I think it was 86.
And I had to look it up. It was 87.
87. Okay. The other thing. So Maxwell. Okay, I'm just gonna skip to the end. Maxwell Lord's big thing is, how does he touch everybody to grant everybody's wishes? Right. All right. So instead of using Mike TV-esque technology from the Wonka factory, how about we make this movie in 1986 and Hands Across America becomes a thing for this movie?
That would be, yeah, that would have been interesting.
Wonder Woman 1986 sounds just as good as 1984. I get it. You're going for the Orwellian thing there. You're trying to be edgy and on the nose, but he's like, if this happens in 86 and he goes and he just holds one person's hand and everybody's touching, doesn't that kind of work?
Yeah.
He could be there in Philadelphia, like on the mic, like, everybody wish for world peace or wish for what you want. And, same thing without Willy Wonka technology. I mean, think about that. Like, he moved Mike TV from, the pad to the TV with the particles that went across the air and into the, the other part. Again, stealing from another movie.
I'm like, how many times did they do or say something in this movie and you just shook your head at?
I had kind of like, to quote IROC in Ready Player One, the movie, I kind of like have a carpal tunnel thing from repetitive motion in my neck. I can't really look left anymore.
When he went to visit, and I know we're jumping all over the place, but when he went to visit the president and the president says that to him, like, oh yeah, that's how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
that was probably one of the bigger sides of the movie for me because
the only thing that would have made that better is if Gene Wilder were still alive and he was able to somersault into the room and be like, Wonka vision. All right. Here's what I did like. I liked the chemistry between Diana and Steve Trevor. That was a given. I liked everything that happened in Bialya for the most part. I liked the way they kind of broke her down as her powers went away or were fading. Starting with the garage when she tried to pull the lock and he's like, oh, that's a strong lock. And it's like, okay, this is the thing she loves the most. Her powers. And, you know, she's giving them up like Superman 3 and 2. Anyway, but the way her hair started getting frizzy. I don't know if you noticed this. Like her makeup was like, well, I mean, you know, one, Gal Gadot is naturally beautiful, so they had to like really work to like, you know, kind of make her look tired and run down. But they did a great job like showing us what was happening because at no point did they ever tell us. And we were slowly figuring it out. It's like she got shot by a bullet and it went through her. By the way, your bullet special effects of Wonder Woman getting shot, just smearing a little bit of like red food coloring on her, that does not cut it for something that is an injury.
Yeah, that'll go into the category of CG and all that stuff that didn't work.
But a flesh wound.
Yes. So what worked for me, obviously that first scene in Themyscira, that was awesome. Well, I love that. The Diana and Steve, again, their chemistry, notwithstanding the way he got there, I still like their chemistry and some of the conversations they had. Particularly the one where they're on I'm shaking my head now, the invisible jet.
Okay, that was the other thing I liked. I actually liked how the invisible jet came to be because she explained it and she was talking about how she had tried to do it and she did it with a coffee cup and she lost it. So she had no idea how long it lasts. So that was great. I loved that part.
So the other things that worked for me were cheesy. Yeah. But it that and then how it related to her learning how to fly.
But the effects of that were so bad.
So bad.
So bad. Again. I mean, like Clark learning to fly on trying to learn to fly on Smallville 15 years ago had better production value than that.
Yeah. So and then the other thing, this was very heavy-handed, but I didn't mind it. And probably because of the 2 hours before it kind of broke me down, I guess. But her plea to humanity at the end of the movie, I liked how it how I connected it to the lesson that she learned in that first scene. Although the way they got there was so bad and so janky that a lot of people it's not going to resonate with. And again, I just like Gal Gadot's the earnestness in which she was talking to people, even though, you know, people were listening in different languages and all that stuff, but whatever. And that's it. Those are the things that work for me.
Yep. No, I agree with all those. I liked the flying stuff when they were. I liked when they got in the plane and he's like, because I mean, a plane is a plane. You know, from what I understand from my friends who have pilot's license, like you can get in a plane and it's the same basic principles. It's just which switch is it? But that was great. But all right,
they're going to shoot us down.
Yeah. Flying through the fireworks was really cool visual as well.
I really like that. Yeah.
So, Bialya is a terrorist state in the DCU, so it was nice to kind of see that bit of lore added into a live action film. But
okay, I wouldn't have known. I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, you know, super nerd. So, but I like Gal Gadot. I really, really do, and I'm excited to see more Wonder Woman with her. I want to see somebody else who understands the character get a crack at the title.
We say that a lot in when we're talking about some of this stuff with superhero stuff, understanding the character.
Well, superheroes, like, okay, I'm going to switch gears for a second. Aquaman is a really easy character to do. He's a really hard character to get right. Mm-hmm. Same with Superman. We've talked about Superman, and I've given, there's a whole, like, 110 episodes ago, a whole episode about how you can fix all of these characters. You guys can track it back down. It's me fixing the DCU, movies and comics, by the way. Wonder Woman I feel like Wonder Woman is a hard character to get wrong. Because she's got a lot of things going for her. One, she comes from a warrior society. So she's already going to have some level of naivety about her, about how the real world works. Two, she's got a strong warrior's code about how things should happen and how things should go down. So she's got a really strict sense of morality, right and wrong. This movie did not touch on that. Actually, this movie went as far as it could to dispel that. And then three, she's got a really awesome power set, but she's not wholly invincible.
Right.
So when you have her, like when they showed the vulnerability of her in this, that was a great moment for this character to learn some humility that she maybe was not quite in touch with since she was a little kid. And that was the lesson, right? You need to be humble. You need to do things the right way. Like, I get that. At the same time, like, she needs to be ambitious. She is ambitious. She is, one of these people who can do, lots of different things, which is what makes her amazing and wonderful.
Yeah. And also I didn't mention that, but like you said, I did like how they slowly showed her breaking down her power set.
Yeah. There's no way Cheetah beats her in a fight, even when they have like even when she's at the lower power level, because Barbara Minerva did not all of a sudden know how to fight.
Yeah.
Like she just said she wanted to be like her. She didn't say she wanted to be her. She did not pick up like advanced ancient Greek and Themyscirian battle
martial
techniques.
Arts.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just because you're fast and strong, that gives you an advantage over people who aren't as fast and strong. But you're going to get someone who all her life has been taught to fight.
Yeah. Like let's look at like Ronda Rousey before like Holly Holm took her to task. Like she's not a big woman. She's relatively short. She's got a great center of gravity, which is what makes her such an amazing judo practitioner. So when she fought some of these women who were bigger, had longer reach, were definitely stronger than her, she was able to use her skills that she had honed her whole life to be dominant. Mm-hmm. Now, she went up against Holly Holm, who was just better that day. And that's how it works. But at no point, even as she's like, Diana is breaking down, like I don't see her relying on, the magic Wakanda bracelets, or the Wolverine bracelets. There's a great meme that Haley sent me. It was Deadpool doing the X-Force, and then Wonder Woman's like, hey, that's my move. And then T'Challa's like, no, this is Wakanda forever. And then Wolverine's like, I've been doing this for 50 years. So, but, I liked how they went out of their way not to make her a one-trick pony this time around with that one move. Right. Unfortunately, they overcompensated with the never-ending lasso of truth.
So is it just as long as she needs it to be?
I think it's kind of like a Green Lantern ring. It'll do whatever she imagines it should do. Like, you notice how it broke into two parts, and wrapped around the two dudes at the mall, but she still was holding on to the other end.
Right.
Yeah. She was for someone who's a really good fighter and has been documented in this whole cinematic journey as a great tactician warrior. She sure took a long time bringing down 4 normies.
Yeah.
Now that I think about that, they took her a long time to break down four normies. Maybe she got soft living in DC. Maybe that's what the whole problem was, right? No.
Yeah.
But yeah. We haven't even talked about Pedro Pascal. So going in, there were people saying that this was like a Trump thing. Patty Jenkins saying it's a Gordon Gekko thing. I think it's totally making fun of television evangelists.
I think it's closer to that too, because
yeah.
Again, this is one of those cases where I liken it to, I think season 2 of The Punisher? Seasons, right?
I only watched the first half of the first episode of season 2, and I did not like season 1 enough to deal with more Frank Castle bullshit.
Oh, okay. So it was one of the articles, a couple articles came out talking about, they're talking about the white nationalists and stuff like that. It was, and I went in with that expectation, and then going to watch it, which again, Punisher season 2, it's a letdown. But
what were the white nationalists in this?
They weren't. That's what I was getting.
He had a really diverse staff. Like his chief of staff was like some black dude who was supposed to be going for an accounting job.
Oh no, I'm talking about Punisher season 2, and then how it relates to Wonder Woman 84. Talking about this was making fun of Trump. I did not see that.
No, I don't. No, I didn't. I didn't get it. Like he had like funny hair. Like maybe that was like the thing. But like
it's the 80s,
he had
everybody
a fabulous head of hair.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that was a wig or Pedro Pascal's real hair. I like to think it's his real hair because it was just fantastic.
It was 80s hair.
Yeah, it was 100% 80s hair. The scene where Steve Trevor comes out and he rolls up the suit sleeves and he goes, "I guess they do this now." I was dying during the fashion show.
Does everybody parachute now?
Does everybody and that's only works because Chris Pine has impeccable comedic timing.
Yes, so much. That happens a lot. That's one of the things that why I love Chris Hemsworth so much in Thor is because he has that timing that if it was in someone else's hands, it would fall flat or just seem really just eye-rolly cheesy or something like that.
Yeah.
And Chris Pine is absolutely in that same category.
And is it just me or is he really starting to look like his dad?
Yeah, he does. Like I was noticing his hair. I was like, it's getting a little gray around the edges.
Well, I mean, that could have just been like makeup. Like, they could have just grayed it up a bit. Yeah, I don't know. But like in his face, he is starting to look more and more like his dad. Where like before he did not really look like, Anyway. So, all right. Like Pedro Pascal was not. I don't want to say I don't want to say he wasn't the right choice for this, but he wasn't let me rephrase that. He wasn't the wrong choice for this, but at the same time, he wasn't necessarily the right choice for this character.
I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with that.
And mainly because, and so this is where the burden of knowledge about some of these characters in the comic verse is like Maxwell Lord was a part of Checkmate. He was, I don't remember if he's a Black King or White Queen or White King, but he was a member of like a really like nefarious spy organization. He actually had the power of mind control. That's why Wonder Woman broke his neck and like became a villain for a while during the whole OMAC thing. Spoilers, but
that sounds like Jessica Jones and Kilgrave.
Similar. But I mean, like, the Purple Man like was able to do that stuff too. And he didn't rape Wonder Woman. He just had her going around doing bad things. He had a lot of heroes. Plus, he killed Blue Beetle, which that's not okay. You don't kill Blue Beetle. He's lucky Booster Gold didn't get to him first. But the whole becoming the Wishing Stone thing, I did not like how he broke down. Like, I feel like as he was taking the things that people prized most, I don't feel like that becoming the stone would have broken him down, because like that would have led me to believe that the stone would become weaker over time as it granted more wishes.
Which it based on our history lesson in this movie, it wouldn't.
No.
Because they couldn't destroy it.
Right. Like, I feel like he would have become stronger, and I would have liked to have seen him become stronger. And to be honest, rather than the slogfest fight between, Animal version Barbara and Wonder Woman, I think it'd have been cooler to watch Maxwell Lord have a little more power and maybe be able to use some of that mind perception type stuff against Diana to make it at least a believable fight, and maybe have her fighting with herself, especially after having given up Steve the way she did.
I think that would have worked a lot better than what we got.
I'll be fair. This is me second guessing. I didn't write this movie. I didn't create the art that is this movie. So, I definitely think Patty Jenkins had a lot to live up to after the first movie, because the first movie is super well received. This movie opened on Rotten Tomatoes with like an 89% it's the first movie in a long time I remember that has had its fresh designation on Rotten Tomatoes revoked, because the critic ratings, it was at like 65% last time I looked. And the audience ratings went from like the 90s down to the low 70s. It might be lower than that now. I didn't look today.
Yeah, I haven't looked, but yeah, it was the bomb drop of the ratings was people actually looking at the movie and as a movie itself, and not as, hey, Patty Jenkins did this,
right.
Which I think sometimes that happens with, especially with, some of these certified critics. They look more at who's directing, who's writing.
Well, I mean,
what they're trying to
the
say.
certified critics that get to see like get to write the reviews pre-embargo, they're behooved to write nice things about everything that they're given.
Yeah.
So just plain and simple. All right. So real quick. So Christopher Polaha, who played the handsome man. So Diana wished that Steve was back. Why is it that like Steve had to inhabit this dude's body, but when the president said he wanted more nukes, 100 new nukes showed up? Why didn't he just show up out of the ether? It would have made way more sense. And I understand the thing that the Mary Sue was talking about consent, and how this guy did not consent to have his body taken over and have Wonder Woman do the things, to quote unquote, to quote Varys and Cora, to do the thing. And so I don't know if I want to go that far with it necessarily, but at the same time, it really does hit on a point, because like, did nobody wonder where this guy was for a few days?
Yeah. And yeah, we don't have to go that far into it, but it's right. One, it never made sense. It didn't go anywhere in the sense of they didn't figure out why it was his body.
Right. Like they could have been like, oh, he was my great grandson or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was kind of predatory of her at the end, like hanging out outside of his place.
Yeah, that's
like weird. I found that really just kind of a strange beat. It's like, I don't know. It was just odd.
There was no need for it. That should have been completely. That's one of those things. Like if it seemed like a first or second draft where if you're looking over it, you just say, you know what? Why don't we just have Steve appear as Steve?
Right. And I think it'd have been more interesting too for other people to actually meet her Steve.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know. It was strange. It was just really, really strange.
It's just one of the many just weird choices that either didn't go anywhere or didn't service the story like it should have.
Okay, so here's the last thing: is this movie got pushed back like 6 times. If this is the movie that had come out last summer, before everything like kind of went down, do you think you would have enjoyed it more? Or do you think because of all the hype that we kept hearing about this and the fact that all the marketing stuff came out at the beginning of 2020, and we were inundated back then, and like we kind of still, I mean, we still see that Wonder Woman in the golden suit on the as a peg warmer. Do you think that changes how you felt about the movie?
Absolutely not.
Okay, because I'm the same. I went in wanting to like it.
Yes, and again, for all the reasons we've mentioned, really enjoyed the first one. You know, last 20 minutes notwithstanding, really love Gal Gadot. Like, I just love her as Wonder Woman. Steve Trevor's back. Chris Pine, even though you know they jerry rigged it for him to be back. Fine, that part of the movie worked for me. So I was looking forward to figuring out how he came back and all that stuff. And so no, like I would feel the same way back then. You know, if it came out last year as I do now. It's just an extreme disappointment. It suffers from, again, a lot of movies, a lot of sequels have that issue where they want to go bigger and badder, and they miss the point of the story. They miss out on the character study, and that's what this did. I mean, it tried to do it, but it was very messily done. Yeah, in the sense of
it was. I think messily is a great way to describe how this was. All right, the last thing. Let's talk about the end credit scene with Linda Carter.
Why?
Well, one, why? And two, it left with the cringiest line ever when the lady asked her name and she said, it's Asteria. And she said, oh, that's a beautiful name. And she goes, it's from my culture. What does that mean? It's from my culture.
I have no clue.
Like, it just left the movie on such a like cringe note. Like, and it was already kind of cringy as it was. Like that whole scene, I feel like that whole scene was thrown in at the very last minute.
Yeah. I was actually waiting for her to wink at the camera.
Yeah. So, or like to like brush her hair back and you see her, like her gauntlets or bracelets of power from, you know, her time as Wonder Woman. You know, I don't know. I like that, just nothing about that scene worked for me. And I love the Wonder Woman TV show. Like, a lot of that stuff I find like really hard to go back and watch. Just like the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. But the Wonder Woman is still really fun, and Linda Carter is awesome in everything. Like, especially when she was the principal on Sky High.
I was just about to say.
And I'll bring up Sky High every single podcast. I love that movie. It's so good. I
love that movie.
I like it. And then like, did you ever watch Zoom with Tim Allen in the
I never watched that. No.
The kid from The Happening and Kate Mara. You know, that's a good one too. As far as those like kid superhero movies. Okay, out of 10 Never-Ending Lassos, what's your score?
So it actually went up to probably like a 4.5.
Okay.
After seeing it the second time.
So I gave it a 5. I you know, for me, anything like a 7 and above is really good. If it's really bad, it's 4 and below. I feel like this is a middle of the row DC movie, so it's a 5. Like, it was better than Birds of Prey and Justice League and Batman v Superman crap of crap, but it wasn't as good as Shazam. It wasn't as good as Aquaman. It certainly wasn't as good as the first Wonder Woman movie.
It was better than Suicide Squad too. I can't do that movie now. Like,
I can rewatch Suicide Squad. So I watched this twice, so none of you have to. And I fell asleep watching it the second time. I will say I did really appreciate having this on HBO Max, because when I was starting to get pissed off at like some of the things, I could pause it and walk away and come back and be like, okay, I'm gonna have a better attitude about it.
Yeah, I will say that actually does help, because if I would have saw this in the theaters, I probably would have given it a lower rating.
If I had spent money other than like the money I was already going to spend for HBO Max for the month. You got to see this for free, you cheap bastard. You owe me $16.
Well, like our boy Amos said, I know people in high places. You know?
All right. Speaking of Amos, that is a great segue to episode 5.
Man, episode 5. Well, one of the things
down and out, by the way,
about this episode of The Expanse it was kind of the breather in a way that we needed, especially early on.
Yeah. So in my notes, I have this. This is the actual calm before the storm.
Yes.
Is what I wrote
after
down.
A storm before it.
But no, like I feel like that was like the pre-storm, like if that makes any sense. Because where we're gonna go over the next, 15 episodes. No, I'm counting the next season too. Where we go over the next 15 episodes with the Free Navy is just balls out awesome. Like if you guys haven't read the books, please do so. They're very, very good. Like, wait till the end of the season. You can get caught up before season 6 comes out. Really, really easy.
Yeah.
I will say the climbing out of the pit scene was better than I ever deserved to get from an amazing scene from a book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am really loving how just Amos seems like such a different character, but the same this season. Like,
it's Peaches. It's because Peaches changes him in the book too, because he has someone to.
Right.
So like Naomi had to care. Well, not had to, but like Naomi cared for him. Now he is caring for someone, and it was like that whole thing from the doctor when he asked about the feelings.
Cortazar.
Thank you. Where he has Cortazar, like, do you get it back or whatever? This is him like actively trying to be human, and directly sets up what happens in the final trilogy book. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm just, because we're so not used to this, and again, we have an advantage because we've seen some of the behind the scenes regarding the books and how Amos has changed. But seeing Wes Chatham do all of this, some of his reactions to how he speaks a little bit softer to when he's talking to Peaches and everything, and I loved his leadership as well.
Yeah,
he actually stepped up in a leadership role. Like, look, this is what we're gonna do. And I'm just loving what we're getting with him. Again, one of my favorite characters anyway, but to see him grow from what we've become used to, it's fantastic.
Yeah. What was the mod guy? Was it Kowalski? Is that his name? Or Konachek, thank you. Like that guy who they got to play him was perfect. And like yeah. Okay. So the episode opens on Drummer, which was really interesting. Because she's dealing with the fallout of what happened to Earth and Fred Johnson being killed.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it was the fact that Marco is alive is based on her decision.
It is. Like, this is all on her. Which was not in the book.
Week. Yeah,
right. It wasn't Drummer that let him go.
Yeah. So, and this is what we discussed, where what type of guilt she was going to feel when she found out that Marcus killed millions.
Mm-hmm.
Marco killed millions and killed Fred Johnson. Not to mention, obviously Ashford dying at his hands as well.
Yep.
She has all of this pent up. I could have been the one to push the button to get this guy out of here. And yes, sure, there might have been a ruckus of civil war, but it would have been much smaller than what's going to happen. And
and when her pal there was like, well, if it wasn't him, it would have been someone else. No, it wouldn't. Marco said Marco told Ashford why it wouldn't be someone else, because Belters do not dream big.
Yes. And that is just the words of someone trying to ease, the pain of someone they love, in the sense of trying to say, this isn't your fault.
Right.
When, again, she's not responsible for what Marco does. She is responsible for the fact that Marco is alive.
Yep.
And I mean, you have to take that. And I think as a character, Drummer's that strong character that she's going to take that in the sense of, hey, I know the truth. This part is on me. Now, what she does with that will be very interesting, because she does get a, hey, time to parlay message from Marco.
Yeah. And she agrees to it without talking to the rest of her crew.
Yeah, and we know how Drummer is. She can be a bit spicy with that temper of hers.
Just a bit. Well, she is Kamina Drummer. She will kill you and just tell the story to the next captain.
Oh, I love that. That's absolutely love that line.
So I thought that was a strong way to start the episode. We check in with Amos and Peaches, Clarissa Mao, at the pit, and getting out. And this was really, really good as they get out and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they realize they're stuck.
Yeah, and so I got to go with I love how Amos took charge in the sense of, and one of the things you were talking about was his he's taking care of Peaches, and when Rona, I think Rona. I guess the sergeant. She was like, "Hey, she's not going anywhere." He's like, "You're tasked to protect me, and I'm making it my task to protect her."
Right.
So he was that stopgap for any of those three guards to do
It was great when the other two guards were like, "Well, what's happening here?" And she's like, "The civilian won't go anywhere without her."
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. But yeah, so they get quote. Okay, I forgot his name already again.
Just call him Tiny.
Tiny, yeah. So they get Tiny, and I love it how he's like, "I have rights, I have rights," like, and they open the door. He's like, "What's going on?"
I love that change of just the change how he modulated his voice. Like, what's going on?
So what's going on? Did you watch this episode twice?
Yes.
Okay, same. It was like. And I caught that the first time, and it really tickled me the second time watching for the voice modulation, especially because I remember that guy was a stand-up comedian for a little while. So anyway, so they get through. Do we just want to talk about the whole underground scene? Like full storyline? Okay, so they try the stairs. Obviously, that doesn't work. Sully gets hurt. The one prison guard. So they get the door open and they get Tiny out. He opens the doors. Amos figures out where the ladder, the escape ladder, is essentially, and how to get it out, which was ingenious. But I mean, that's nothing new from Amos. And so the guards play odds, which I thought was really funny, that 300 years from now, they're still playing odds, to see who goes. And Sully draws the short straw. And eventually, Sully comes crashing to his death. In the book, there's actually a little more to this scene, because he's essentially just annoying the shit out of Tiny. And Tiny throws him off. And here he's like, he slipped. Anyways, he would have fallen. He was complaining about his knee, which made me laugh really hard. Right? Because Sully was being a dick to him in the book. And in the show, we obviously didn't get to see any of that. So instead they all go up, and, Rona has a bunch of guilt because she's like, we should have not split up and blah, blah, blah. And they finally, they're going, and the elevator falls.
Yeah, everybody gets small.
That was great. Although I'm kind of curious how the people above him heard that, because it seemed really loud as that elevator was falling.
Yeah, I barely heard what he said, honestly.
But so they get to the top. Tiny kills one of the other guards, leaving Rona, the only living guard, and goes after Amos for calling him Tiny, because he didn't like to be called Tiny. And Amos will probably. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to. This is the only time in the series you'll see Amos overpowered.
Right. I was gonna say he finally met someone who he can't just like physically overtake.
Yeah. Call me Tiny again.
And he's about to drop him, and Rona, who had lost her gun previously, the guns are encoded to the people. She uses the other guard's gun and shoots him, and then Amos kicks him in the nuts from behind and does the sickest Brock Lesnar suplex. Like just throwaway slam or throwaway release suplex there.
So that was the first thing I said when that happened. I was like, Suplex City,
bitch. So here's my question. So she used his hand, right, while he was dead. why couldn't they, like, Amos have dipped his hand in that guy's blood and picked up the gun?
You know what?
Did you think that too?
Okay. The second time around, I thought that up because, especially looking at Sully's head, I was like, why didn't he just kind of coat his hand in the blood?
So I thought it when I read that scene in the book, because they talked about the blood pooling everywhere. But like, it really hit me in the show, especially because he picks the gun up, which I don't know if he did in the book or not. But yeah, so you know they're up there. Rona's like, this was supposed to be on a weekend with my kid, and he's like, well, go find your kid. And now, you know, they have to, Peaches and Amos are about to make their trip to get off of Earth.
Yeah, and one of the things in, you know, not in just the scene, but just overall, I'm really curious to see how quickly things progress to the next step, to them getting off, getting back, getting off Earth and all of this stuff. So that's one of those things I'm still not.
So I don't think it'll be as drawn out as it was in the book. Like, right. I think they're going to go find like the space yacht like they did, but I don't think it's going to be like the roving band of marauders or anything like that. I think he's like, Eric is in the next episode. It's already in the, the notes for what's coming out. So, but like, so he's going to go back to Eric and Eric will help them figure it out. But yeah. All right. So then we get back to Tycho. And they're interrogating Saki, and Bull and Holden are essentially yelling at the guard because he goes, she kept smiling at me.
I love what Bull's response was. It's like, stop trying to think, but because you suck at it.
You were so bad at it. So, but he uses much spicier language.
Yeah, he does.
And they open the door, and Saki's face is just covered in blood, and she spits a mouthful of blood out. And she was holding that, like just waiting for someone to come in for the effect of that. They are trying to talk her to about why she did what she did. I thought it was interesting that she called Fred Johnson a tourist.
Yeah, which is funny because when she said that, I'm thinking he did more for your people than nearly any other belter that has been out there.
He legitimized the belt.
Yes.
He really did.
Yeah. And and what I wrote down for this is she's a reminder that for fanatics, nothing is ever enough. Mm-hmm. Calling Fred a tourist despite what he did for them, he's not one of them. So what he did is she kind of delegitimizes it by saying he's a tourist.
Yeah. So, and they're talking about where Marco is and like what Marco is. And then Holden says to Bull, let's get the Rossi and go hunting. And she says, I'll see you when you get back. Which, how Holden didn't pick up on that?
My thing is, look, if she did this to Fred, the first thing I would have thought, damn, she worked on the Rossi all this time.
Right. She was in there with unfettered access. So they get to the Rossi and they're starting it up. And I will say, when he said who's gonna pilot it and Bull said me, I feel like I really hope we're not missing out on a really great character from the book. Because if you remember, there was the younger kid that piloted the Rossi while Alex was off with Bobby, who then stuck around as part of the crew. And as I've been thinking about this, it's like he could be the one who maybe replaces Alex as the, whatever they're going to do to Alex with the impending termination of Kazanvar's contract, or I guess the already termination of Kazanvar's job on this show. I don't want Bull to stick around as the pilot of the Rocinante.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like Zuniga.
I love him. But
to your point, and again, who knows? Maybe we see this character come in an episode, or I don't know. I'm not sure because again, one of the things the show tends to do is, take a couple characters and mash them together.
Right. So, and we haven't met the coding wonk yet for that, holding the high orders to go through all of Monica's stuff. with Monica,
Right.
and like put together like all the missing ships and like really figure out what the Free Navy is, which I assume is going to be this season because it seems really weird to wait till next season to do that. So maybe that character could be like, they could mix like that girl and the kid as the pilot. And maybe she's the new pilot of the Rossi. I don't know.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. But again, one of the things I do like about this show is that they make changes to the books, and generally speaking, the changes, I can't help but give thumbs ups.
Yeah, no, I mean they've really worked. It's just one of those things where I don't know. And kind of to spoil a little bit of Naomi or the Rossi, Naomi is able to get a message to James just in time to keep the Rossi from blowing up. And we'll discuss that when we get to Naomi's part. So we have Alex and Bobby in the Screaming Firehawk out there following the the Belters and the Martians as they're trying to meet up. And, Bobby is just solely focused like we've never seen her.
Yeah, and obviously Alex is wanting to try to get a hold of his crew and his people, and she's like, we can't do anything for him.
Right, he wants to check in because
but they have the proto-molecule. We can't do anything about that. We can do something about this, and
and it's a relatively good prioritization on her part, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, because if they can get some information on, and again, one of the things you said a few minutes ago is finding out what the Free Navy is. If any bit of information they can get on the ships involved and the people involved will help them in this fight, because right now their Earth and Mars are blind to what they're facing. They don't know, they know what Marco said, but they don't know how far this reaches.
Right.
So
and then they get into a really cool spaceship battle, or I guess chase with some fast movers. I love that. The missiles, they call them fast movers. I don't know why. I really like it. I think that's cool. I don't know if that's what they called torpedoes, or what they call torpedoes with submarines. But it just seems like something that they would use, a term they would use. And Alex does his Alex thing, and we leave them at the very end of the episode, having dumped the core and hurtling off into who knows where.
Yeah. And I love that. And, you just get that explosion of the fast mover, and then them being slingshot, through space, and then just that silence.
Yeah. It was a really good way to end the episode.
And I'm like, oh, come on.
So I'm trying to remember, like, do these ships, is it like kind of like Star Trek where it's just the one core, or is it like multiple things for the Epstein drive? Like, or are they just stuck with like thrusters?
So again, I don't know about the normal ships, but this is a racing ship.
Right. That's like, it's a racing yacht.
So I don't know if I don't know. I honestly don't. I would think that something that small
probably just has one, right?
Would just have one,
yeah.
Right.
Can we stop for a second and appreciate the Razorback Screaming Firehawk and the fact that it looks just like a shuttlecock from badminton?
That's what it looks like. I was trying to figure that out.
I mean, like I've been wanting to bring this up for a while now. But like as it was hurtling towards space, it's like that is definitely a shuttlecock. So but just like, it's I think it's a really good spaceship design. It doesn't have to fly in atmosphere, but like,
right.
It's got all the everything that it needs. Anyway, all right. So Naomi on the Pella. We get a ton of exposition here about Naomi's past. My favorite scene of the episode was when they're all in the cafeteria and Marco tells her she's free to go, and she goes, all right, then I want to be taken to my ship. And he goes, but you don't have a ship. You gave it to Philip, and points at Philip. It's like, dude, you are such a dick, and I love it.
Such a dick.
So good. It was so good, though. It was such a good, like, the delivery of it, and like the whole like your wording and gravitas of that character to know he's in complete control and he can do whatever he wants to mess with her.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting to see Sin actually gets pissed at Marco.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, dude, you don't have to do this to her.
Yeah, and we got to call out to her famous red kibble.
Yeah.
But it was also funny because Philip's like, no.
Yeah. Which, again, Phillips gets his again where Marco does when he tells Marco, you're angry at me.
Yeah.
He's like, no. And he puts him in that kind of like
the headlock, like
that brotherly type headlock, but it's being sort of serious. And he's like, no, disappointed.
Yeah, the accent, his Belter accent is so great.
Yeah.
You know, and so Naomi storms off and she's trying to figure out what she can do to the Bella to sabotage it or get in touch with James. Sen comes by and tries to get help from her and she kind of blows him off. She goes back to eat. And Oksana comes in and basically tells her the only way she's getting away from them is, you know, through an airlock. And meeting the briny deep, as you will.
Did you notice real quick when she's looking at her access? Did you notice that the only access she has was doors and corners control?
Yep, I thought that was great. That was like, I'm surprised Thomas Jane didn't direct this episode. This episode was directed by Jeff Woolnough and written by Matthew Rasmussen. So both two new to this season, at least. Yeah, no, I did notice that. And that's kind of foreshadowing for what's going to happen with her later. But she goes back to Sin, or she pockets a knife, and she goes to kill Marco.
Yeah, and
Philip sees her and saves her.
Yeah, and talk about and again, this is one of those things when we talk about how Alex is not for espionage.
Right.
Neither is Naomi,
no.
Because she looks so sus. Marco, I need to talk to you. And she's like leaning forward. It's like
she would totally get the spike if it was Among Us.
Yeah.
You are the imposter.
But yeah, you're right. Philip, and she doesn't realize it until they get in the elevator, and he's like, you should be lucky I took you out.
Yeah.
Because I just saved your life.
So
because Marco was waiting for that.
Oh yeah, Marco knew what was happening there. But she goes to help Sin. She attacks him. She gets control of his pad and is able to contact Jim, and she saves him. And so she figures out after talking to Oksana that they put that code.
Carol.
What?
Carol. Oksana is drummer.
You're right. Sorry. When she talks to, is it Carol?
Yeah, I don't know. It's K-A-R.
Oh, you're right, Carol. I don't know why I keep calling her Oksana. Anyway, so Carol, she talks to Carol, and she realizes the code that she wrote to destroy ships is on the Rossi. So she gets in touch with Jim, and at the very last second saves the day. And while she's talking, Sen grabs her, and that's kind of where we leave with her, is them throwing her into a cell on the Pella, and she's yelling. And then did you notice the isolation mode? How like all of a sudden you can't hear? That was like the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah, and again, it was one of those things where I think I looked down and I just like her voice cut out.
Yeah.
And then I happened to look back up and I saw that, and it's like, whoa, that is messed up.
So one really interesting thing I found about Naomi this season is she's back with like her old people, and she keeps slipping in and out of the Belter accent to the like kind of more like Britishy accent that she's been using the rest of the series. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm. I haven't noticed that.
I think it's a really great like character development for her, because she's trying desperately not to backslide to who she was, because she loves who she is.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going over that in my head when we first got her, and that's a really good. That was one of those details that is pretty cool to see.
This season totally makes up for kind of how they did Naomi dirty as the chief engineer on the Behemoth.
Oh yeah.
Like, I did not like that version of the character. Not that Dominique Tipper did a bad job. She still did an amazing job. But how that
it's just
character,
what they gave her.
What that character had to go through, because she turned on the Rossi crew and the Rossi crew turned on her, which that does not happen with those people, and so it just never worked for me.
Right.
So anyway, so this is like a solid 4.5 out of 5 Rossies.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing before we stop, I think one of the more important lines, and this is going to come back to, I think, bite Marco, is when he tells Philip, he's like, feel what you feel, but you can't let those feelings rule you.
Right.
I think he's trying to, because he sees that despite everything that he said, despite being gone 15 or 16 years, there's that Philip still wants to reach out to his mother.
Yeah, he likes it. He wants his mommy.
Yeah, and and I think Marco may see the cracks where Naomi could insert her love for Philip, and to kind of put as a wall between what Marco has indoctrinated him in.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. I mean, and these are the cracks that we're seeing in the relationship between Marco and Philip.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So, cool. All right. Wow. That's a lot. All right. So, Wonder Woman, not so great. Could have been better. Maybe get writers next time.
Yeah. Not Jeff Johns.
Yeah, not Patty Jenkins, not Jeff Johns. The more and more I think about it, the more I think that, maybe the whole breakup between Patty Jenkins and Marvel was not as cut and dry as we're led to believe it is.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Warner Brothers let a director tell them no. And I think maybe it's because it's, Patty Jenkins that they did that. And they're paying for that now. But they're if Wonder Woman would have been really good, actually, let me rephrase that. If Wonder Woman had been good, I would have gone to see it in the theater.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Thank you, HBO Max, for saving me $40 from having to go and take the kid and get popcorn and, all that stuff.
Slushy.
So you and your goddamn
I want a slushie right now.
Just go to the movie theater and buy a slushie. You don't even have to stay. Just go in and buy a slushie.
I've actually seen somebody do that before.
Go to Target. They have slushies at Target.
Wow, I haven't been to Target in a while.
Yeah, go to Target and get a slushie. Anyway, next time you come up here, I'll have a slushie waiting for you.
That's what I like to hear, man.
Anyway, hey, I treat my guests well, So anyway,
yeah, I told you. I said I knew people in high places.
That's not me. Not me. All right. Thanks to Julian and Matt for backing us on Patreon. If you guys want to join the infamous backer crew, I don't know, whatever. Check that out. Check us out on YouTube. We're blowing up. No, not really. I mean, but definitely like and subscribe to the videos on YouTube because we're posting them there, and there's more stuff that is coming to YouTube after the new year, or I guess this year for those of you who are listening to this, who aren't Julian and Matt, who are Patreons and get early access to episodes. You like that plug?
I like that.
Anyway, but yeah, Happy New Year, guys. Hope you had a safe and healthy New Year, and we'll be back later.
See ya.
Bye. The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, with new episodes out every Sunday. You can find more information about the show online at infamouspodcast.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @InfamousPodcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcatching app. If you're enjoying the show, consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/infamouspodcast for our new tiers and rewards. The Infamous Podcast is hosted and produced by me, Brian Tudor, with music provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. You can find me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @BrianTudor. So, whenever you're listening to the show, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Later.